Get your filthy hands away from that piano. Jack Jackson's voice sliced through the champagne chatter like a knife through silk. The billionaire real estate mogul stepped between Cecilia Giordano and the pristine Steinway Model D, his Rolex glinting as he shoved her cleaning cart aside. Cecilia froze, mop still dripping. 250 of Manhattan's elite turned to stare. Jackson's cold gray eyes scanned her from worn sneakers to faded uniform. You think someone like you belongs near something this valuable? His manicured finger jabbed toward the piano. This instrument costs more than you'll earn in your entire pathetic life. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd gathering for tonight's charity gala. Cecilia's jaw tightened. Her hands, rough from chemicals, but impossibly elegant, gripped the mop handle tighter. Then Jackson delivered the killing blow. Tell you what, play this piano tonight, and I'll marry you on the spot. $1 million dowry included. The ballroom erupted in cruel amusement as phones lifted to record. Have you ever been so underestimated that your dignity became their entertainment? Before we continue, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you hate people who treat others like they mean nothing, the people who don't are usually siding with such. The 5 a.m. subway from Queens rattled through darkness toward Manhattan, carrying Cecilia Giordano and the weight of 2 jobs, 3 generations of responsibility, and 1 impossible secret that would shatter everything Jack Jackson believed about worth. At 52, Cecilia looked like a woman who had buried her brother, raised his twin daughters, and watched her sister-in-law's mind disappear into Alzheimer's fog one day at a time. But her hands, resting on a worn canvas bag, told a different story. Long fingers, precise positioning, calloused from chemicals but elegant in their quiet strength. Play this piano, and I'll marry you. The billionaire's words echoed as Brooklyn disappeared behind her. What Jack Jackson didn't know was that 23 years ago, Cecilia Giordano had commanded standing ovations at La Scala, and she still remembered every note. Cecilia's reflection stared back from the grimy subway window, a face carved by sacrifice before its time. The train screeched into her stop at 5:47 a.m., right on schedule. She shouldered her canvas bag, the same one she'd carried from Milan to New York 23 years ago, now held together with duct tape and determination. By 6:15 a.m., she was mopping the lobby of Pinnacle Tower, where Jack Jackson's penthouse occupied the entire 47th floor. The building existed in a different universe. Marble, imported from Carrara, the same quarries that supplied Michelangelo. Crystal chandeliers older than the Constitution. Residents who measured time in quarterly reports and spoke in stock tickers. Cecilia moved through this world like a ghost, present but invisible. Necessary but unacknowledged. She'd been invisible for 23 years. 23 years since the Milan Conservatory, where professors had called her straordinaria, extraordinary. 23 years since the full scholarship to continue her training. The scholarship she'd surrendered the day the phone call came from Queens. Antonio's construction scaffold collapsed. He didn't make it. Her brother's dying wish hadn't been spoken. He'd been gone before she arrived. But she'd heard it anyway, in the silence of his widow's grief, in the terrified eyes of 8-year-old Sophia and Isabella. Take care of them. Cecilia had promised the empty hospital room. The conservatory letter had arrived 3 days after the funeral. She'd used it to wrap Antonio's watch before placing it in storage, along with her performance gowns, her sheet music, and the dreams of a woman who no longer existed. Now, at 6:30 a.m., Cecilia pushed her cart past the building's grand ballroom. Through beveled glass doors, Workers were positioning tonight's centerpiece, a Steinway Model D concert grand that sat like a sleeping giant bathed in morning light. Sheet music lay open on its stand. Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21, the same piece she'd performed for her debut at Teatro alla Scala, earning a standing ovation from critics who'd never seen anything like it. Her fingers twitched involuntarily, muscle memory stirring after years of forced sleep. Cecilia paused, just for a moment, her reflection caught in the ballroom's mirrored walls. Behind her, the cleaning cart. Before her, through the glass, the Steinway. Two versions of herself, separated by a door and 23 years of silence. She didn't hear Jack Jackson approach until his voice cut through her reverie, like a blade through silk. Jack Jackson discovered Cecilia standing near the Steinway at 7:15 a.m., her mop momentarily forgotten as she studied the Mozart score on the music stand. Her fingers had unconsciously mimicked the opening measures, hovering in the air like a conductor's hands. "Excuse me." His voice cut like a blade. "You're dripping on my carpet." Cecilia looked down. Her mop had indeed left a small puddle on the Persian rug, a rug worth more than she'd earned in 6 months. "My apologies, Mr. Jackson. I'll clean it immediately." "See that you do." He started to walk away, then paused, studying her with the expression of a predator who'd just spotted entertaining prey. His eyes narrowed on her hands, too elegant for a cleaning woman, the fingers too long, too refined. "You ever seen a piano like that before?" "Yes, sir. It's magnificent." "Magnificent." He rolled the word around mockingly. "You probably think you could play it, don't you? You people always think you're capable of things beyond your station." Cecilia's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. 23 years of invisibility had taught her when to speak and when to survive. Jackson's smile widened. He'd found his entertainment. Several early arriving caterers had paused their work, sensing something interesting developing. Jackson raised his voice, playing to his growing audience. "Tell you what," he announced. "Tonight at my gala, you play that piano. Actually play it. Not just bang on the keys. And I'll marry you on the spot. Hell, I'll even throw in $1 million dowry." Laughter rippled through the workers. Someone pulled out their phone, already recording. "Mr. Jackson hosts a charity gala," one of the caterers whispered to her colleague. "But the real charity is watching him destroy people for fun." Jackson pulled a velvet box from his pocket. He'd been planning to show the ring to his jeweler today, and placed it atop the piano's music stand with theatrical flourish. "There's your engagement ring, darling. 10 carats. All you have to do is earn it." The gathering crowd pressed closer. Phones lifted. Someone started a live stream. "Of course," Jackson continued, his voice dripping with false sweetness. "When you inevitably fail, I trust you'll understand that some spaces simply aren't meant for people like you. That culture, refinement, artistry, these aren't things you can learn from a mop bucket." Dr. Richard Brennan, arriving early for setup, chuckled nervously. "Jackson, perhaps—" "Oh, but this is educational," Jackson interrupted. "We're about to demonstrate the difference between ambition and ability, between dreaming and doing." He turned to Cecilia with a smile that could have frozen champagne. "Unless, of course, you'd prefer to simply return to your proper duties. No one would blame you for recognizing your limitations." The challenge hung in the air like smoke. Cecilia could feel the crowd's anticipation, their hunger for entertainment at her expense. Phones recorded her every micro-expression. The video was already being shared. Billionaire challenges cleaning lady to play piano. In that moment, Standing before these strangers, while they waited for her humiliation, Cecilia heard her brother Antonio's voice from that final hospital visit. "Cece, don't let them make you small. You were born to fill concert halls." She'd promised him she'd take care of his family. She'd kept that promise for 23 years, even when it meant making herself invisible. But taking care of Sophia and Isabella also meant showing them that surrender wasn't hereditary. That being underestimated wasn't the same as being defeated. Cecilia met Jackson's cold gray eyes directly. For the first time in 23 years, she allowed her full height to assert itself. Shoulders squaring, spine straightening into the posture her Milan professors had called regale. She removed her cleaning gloves slowly, deliberately, revealing hands that bore both the scars of survival and the unmistakable elegance of artistry. Hands that had scrubbed toilets for 2 decades, but still remembered La Scala's standing ovations. "I accept your proposal, Mr. Jackson," Cecilia said, her voice carrying an authority that seemed to shift the room's energy. "But when I'm done, I expect you to honor it." Jackson's eyebrows rose slightly. This wasn't the cowering response he'd expected. The video counter on the live stream climbed. 1,000 views, 5,000, 10,000. Jackson Galadrama was beginning to trend. Cecilia turned and walked away, returning to her cleaning cart. But something had changed in her posture, in the way she carried herself. Jackson watched her go, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face before his arrogant smile returned. "Tonight at 8, he called after her. "Don't be late to your own wedding, sweetheart." The workers laughed, but a few exchanged uncertain glances. There had been something in the cleaning woman's eyes, something that suggested Jack Jackson might have just made a very expensive mistake. By noon, the video had 100,000 views. By 3 p.m., 500,000. By the time Cecilia's shift ended at 5 p.m. and she returned to her Queens apartment, Jackson Galadrama was trending nationwide with 2 million views. Her phone buzzed constantly. Father Marcus. "Cecilia, I saw the video. You don't have to do this." But she did. Because Isabella's loan officers had called again that morning, threatening legal action. Because Sophia had been picking up extra shifts to help with Maria's care costs. Because 23 years of being invisible had taught her that sometimes the only way to be seen was to stop hiding. At 6 p.m., Sophia and Isabella arrived at the apartment. Having seen the video at the hospital, "Mom," Sophia said carefully, "you don't have to prove anything to that man." "I'm not doing this for him," Cecilia replied quietly. She walked to her bedroom closet and pulled out a small wooden box from the top shelf, something her daughters had never seen. Inside was her Milan Conservatory medal, tarnished but still bearing the inscription, "Cecilia Giordano, Prima Con Lode, 2002. Isabella's hand flew to her mouth. "Mom, you never told us." "I couldn't," Cecilia said simply, "because telling you about who I was would have made it harder to be who you needed me to be." She pinned the medal inside her uniform, hidden against her heart. At 7:45 p.m., Cecilia Giordano walked out of her Queens apartment, rode the subway back to Manhattan, and prepared to show Jack Jackson and the world that excellence doesn't announce itself with designer labels. That genius doesn't retire just because life demands sacrifice. And that some people carry Mozart in their souls, even when they're carrying mops in their hands. The Pinnacle Tower Ballroom had transformed into a temple of excess. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors, polished to mirror perfection. Ice sculptures shaped like dollar signs flanked champagne fountains. 250 of Manhattan's most powerful figures mingled beneath oil paintings worth more than small countries' GDP. Jackson held court at the ballroom's center, a vision in Tom Ford that cost more than Cecilia's annual salary. Around him, real estate moguls and potential Senate campaign donors competed for his attention like planets orbiting a particularly dangerous star. The Arts Education Initiative has been transformative, his campaign manager, Patricia Henderson, was saying, champagne flute raised. Mr. Jackson's leadership proves that profit and philanthropy can coexist. Jackson's smile could have cut diamonds. He donated $50,000 to arts programs while demolishing 3 community theaters to build luxury condos. But tonight wasn't about mathematics. It was about optics and entertainment. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice carrying across the ballroom with practiced authority. "Before we begin tonight's formal program, I have a special surprise." Conversations paused. Phones emerged from designer purses. Jackson promising surprises was always newsworthy. "This morning, I discovered something disturbing about service standards in my building." His gray eyes scanned the crowd, building suspense. "It seems our cleaning staff believe they understand fine culture." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Near the service entrance, Cecilia had arrived in her uniform, summoned by Jackson's assistant with a text that read, "Mr. Jackson expects you at the gala, 8 p.m. sharp. Don't be late." She'd understood immediately. This was his show. She was the punchline. "Cecilia," Jackson called, his voice sharp as a scalpel. "Would you join us, please?" 250 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Cecilia felt the weight of their collective gaze like physical pressure. But she moved forward steadily, carrying herself with dignity despite her simple uniform. Behind her, slipping through the service entrance, came Sophia and Isabella, still in their Mount Sinai scrubs, having sprinted from their shifts. They wouldn't let their mother face this alone. Father Marcus Williams stood near the back, his congregation members filing in quietly. Word had spread through Harlem about what was happening. The viral video from this morning had shown them everything they needed to know. "This morning," Jackson continued, theatrical momentum building, "I caught this woman studying our priceless Steinway Model D. Not cleaning it, mind you. Studying it. As if someone of her background could possibly comprehend such artistry." The crowd murmured appreciatively. Derek Chen, Jackson's publicist, was already filming, his phone capturing every angle. Jackson gestured toward the magnificent piano, its ebony surface reflecting the ballroom's opulence. "This instrument cost $180,000. It requires training, breeding, and culture to appreciate. Qualities that—" He let the sentence hang, his gaze moving pointedly from Cecilia's worn sneakers to her faded uniform. "But I'm feeling generous tonight," Jackson announced, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that somehow carried to every corner. "After all, this is a charity event." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small velvet box containing a diamond ring, 10 carats, ostentatious, more about power than beauty. "So I'll make our friend here a proposition." He placed the ring atop the piano's music stand with theatrical precision. "If this woman can play even the opening measures of that Mozart piece, I'll marry her right here, right now. $1 million dowry included." The ballroom erupted in delighted laughter. "Poor woman doesn't know what she's in for," someone whispered loudly. "This is going to be painful to watch," another voice agreed. Jackson turned to Cecilia with a smile that could have frozen champagne. "Of course, when you inevitably fail, I trust you'll understand that some spaces simply aren't meant for people like you." Derek Chen's livestream counter climbed. 10,000 viewers, 25,000, 50,000. Jackson Gala Drama was already trending. The challenge hung in the air like smoke from an expensive cigar. Cecilia could feel the crowd's anticipation, their hunger for entertainment at her expense. In that moment, standing before Manhattan's elite while they waited for her humiliation, she heard an echo of her brother Antonio's voice from the hospital. Those final coherent words, before the morphine took him. "Cece, don't let them make you small. You were born to fill concert halls." Jackson's gray eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. He'd created the perfect trap. "Well?" he prompted, adjusting his Rolex with deliberate precision. "Do we have a bride, or do we have a cleaning lady who knows her place?" The ballroom held its collective breath. Cecilia raised her head, meeting Jackson's gaze directly. For the first time in 23 years, she allowed her full height to assert itself, shoulders squaring, spine straightening into the posture her Milan professors had called regale. She removed her cleaning gloves slowly, deliberately, revealing hands that bore both the calluses of survival and the elegant length of artistry. "I accept your proposal, Mr. Jackson," Cecilia said, her voice carrying new authority that seemed to shift the ballroom's acoustic balance. "But when I'm done, I expect you to honor it." The crowd stirred, sensing something unexpected in her tone. Jackson's eyebrows rose slightly. This wasn't the cowering response he'd orchestrated. Cecilia began walking toward the piano, each step measured like the opening notes of a symphony about to change everything. Cecilia approached the Steinway Model D, like a woman walking toward her own resurrection. The ballroom fell silent. Not the polite quiet of anticipation, but the absolute stillness that precedes either triumph or catastrophe. 250 of Manhattan's most powerful figures held their collective breath, phones poised to capture spectacular failure. Jackson stood beside the piano like a prosecutor, presenting evidence, his diamond ring catching light. "Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21, he announced to the crowd. "One of the most technically demanding pieces in classical repertoire. Even trained pianists struggle with its complexity." His cold eyes met Cecilia's with predatory satisfaction. "But please, do try your best." The crowd pressed closer, forming an amphitheater of expectation. Derek Chen adjusted his phone angle to capture both Cecilia's inevitable failure and Jackson's triumphant reaction. "This should be good," someone whispered. 10 seconds before she gives up," Senator Bradley muttered to his wife. "I'll take that bet," came an unexpected voice, Robert Martinez, Juilliard's dean, who'd been studying Cecilia's posture. "Something about the way she moves." Cecilia reached the piano bench. For a moment, she simply stood there, taking in the instrument's magnificent presence. The Steinway was a monument to human craftsmanship, $180,000 of precision engineering, its ebony surface reflecting the ballroom's crystal chandeliers like black water under starlight. She dreamed of playing an instrument like this during those midnight sessions at St. Augustine's, hunched over Father Marcus's broken upright with 3 dead keys and a sustain pedal held together with duct tape. Now, surrounded by people who expected her to fail, she was about to find out what 23 years of silence had been building toward. Cecilia sat on the bench, adjusting its height with movements so practiced they seemed automatic. Her hands hovered over the keys, feeling the instrument's energy. The crowd pressed closer. Phones lifted higher. Social media algorithms calculating viral potential. "How long before she quits?" someone asked. Jackson's smile widened. He'd choreographed this humiliation perfectly. The public challenge, the impossible piece, the guarantee of failure that would cement his superiority while providing premium entertainment. Cecilia flexed her fingers, a subtle movement that revealed the elegant length of digits shaped by years of disciplined practice. The calluses from cleaning chemicals couldn't hide the natural grace of hands born to make music. She tested the piano's action with a few silent key presses, feeling the instrument's response. The Steinway's touch was magnificent, sensitive enough to respond to the slightest dynamic variation, powerful enough to fill concert halls. Cecilia's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, something fundamental had shifted. The cleaning lady was gone. In her place sat an artist. She took a breath that seemed to draw silence from the very air itself. When her fingers touched the keys for the first time, the contact was so gentle it barely produced sound, a whisper of music that somehow commanded absolute attention. The opening of Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21 emerged like dawn breaking over still water. Single notes, precise and clear, each one placed with the delicacy of a surgeon and the confidence of a master. Cecilia's left hand joined with soft bass notes that made the ballroom's marble floors vibrate in sympathy. The crowd's smirks began to fade. Jackson's eyebrows drew together almost imperceptibly. The notes were clean, purposeful, technically correct. But surely she would stumble when the piece became more demanding. By measure 8, Cecilia's posture had completely transformed. Her shoulders relaxed into muscle memory, earned through 10,000 hours of practice. Her wrists floated above the keys with the fluid grace of a conductor leading an invisible orchestra. The shy cleaning lady had vanished, replaced by an artist whose presence filled the vast ballroom like incense. Robert Martinez's champagne glass paused halfway to his lips. "That's not amateur technique," he whispered to his companion. "That's conservatory-level mastery." Count Alessandro Romano, visiting Italian nobility, who collected rare instruments, leaned forward with the expression of a man recognizing something valuable. "Il tocco," he whispered to his wife. "Listen to that touch. That's European training." Measure 16 brought the melody's first true flowering. Cecilia's right hand danced across the upper registers, while her left maintained rhythmic foundation, creating a conversation between voices that seemed to emanate from somewhere deeper than the piano strings. The music wasn't being played. It was being born. Her touch revealed the Steinway's voice in ways the instrument rarely experienced. Each key responded with crystalline clarity, the concert grand's superior acoustics, allowing subtle dynamics that would have been impossible on lesser instruments. Cecilia shaped phrases with breathing that seemed to extend the piano's natural decay, creating legato lines that flowed like silk ribbons through the air. The audience began to shift unconsciously. Bodies positioned for mockery now leaned forward in genuine interest. Conversations died mid-whisper. Even Derek Chen's social media commentary fell silent as he realized his live stream was capturing something extraordinary. The comment feed exploded. "Holy shit, is this real? Who is this woman? This is actually incredible." Senator Bradley lowered his phone entirely. His wife grabbed his arm, whispering, "Richard, she's really magnificent." The transition to the development section arrived like thunder wrapped in velvet. Cecilia's technique exploded into view, octaves that rang like cathedral bells, arpeggios that cascaded down the keyboard like water over stones, chromatic runs so fast they blurred into pure emotion. Her hands moved with surgical precision, while her face reflected the music's emotional landscape. Tender during lyrical passages, fierce during dramatic climaxes. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. "She's actually a concert pianist?" "Shh," came the sharp reply. The crowd was no longer watching a humiliation unfold. They were witnessing artistry at a level most had never experienced outside Lincoln Center. Jackson's face had gone pale. This wasn't possible. Cleaning ladies didn't play Mozart like this. Working-class women didn't possess this level of sophistication. Everything he believed about breeding, education, and social hierarchy was crumbling with each perfectly executed phrase. A young tech entrepreneur pulled out his phone to Google the piece's difficulty level. His face went ashen as he read, "Considered one of Mozart's most challenging concerti. Requires advanced technical skill and mature musicianship. Often used as a benchmark for professional-level pianists." The crowd began to murmur in amazement. Real estate moguls who collected art as investments realized they were witnessing something their money couldn't buy. Campaign donors who understood power recognized a different kind of authority being asserted. Cecilia navigated Mozart's most treacherous passages, like a master chef wielding a knife. Dangerous techniques made to look effortless through years of dedicated practice. Her pedaling created layers of resonance that transformed the ballroom into a concert hall, each harmony hanging in the air like precious perfume. The cadenza showcased interpretive maturity that defied her circumstances. Cecilia took risks with tempo and dynamics that only artists comfortable with their mastery attempt, slowing impossible passages to extract maximum emotional impact, then accelerating through technical fireworks that would challenge conservatory professors. Count Romano turned to his wife with tears in his eyes. "Maria, questo è quello che abbiamo sentito alla Scala. This is that level of artistry." Father Marcus stood near the back, openly weeping, his congregation members clutching each other in amazement. They'd known Cecilia could play, but this was transcendent. Sophia and Isabella held hands so tightly their knuckles went white, watching their mother reveal the woman she'd been before sacrifice became her identity. Jackson's hands trembled as he gripped his champagne glass. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't how the evening was supposed to unfold. The music built toward its climactic return. Cecilia's entire body now moved with Mozart's rhythms. Her feet worked the pedals like a master organist. Her shoulders swayed with melodic lines. Even her breathing synchronized with the music's phrases. She wasn't just playing the piano. She had become the conduit through which Mozart's genius flowed into the modern world. Derek Chen's phone trembled in his hands. His live stream had gained 300,000 viewers in real time. Comments flooded faster than he could read. "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Who is this woman? I'm literally crying. This needs to go viral right now." The ballroom's acoustics carried every nuance of Cecilia's performance to its farthest corners. Real estate executives who had never attended a classical concert found themselves moved to tears by music they couldn't name but somehow understood. Tech moguls who measured success in algorithms discovered that some things couldn't be quantified, only experienced. Then came the final cadenza, the piece's most technically demanding passage, where even professional pianists held their breath. Cecilia's hands separated into independent voices, the left maintaining bass octaves, while the right exploded into cascading runs that seemed to defy physical possibility. The ballroom held its collective breath. Jackson's mouth fell open as Cecilia executed passages that his childhood piano teacher had called impossible for anyone but the most gifted artists. Her fingers moved so quickly they blurred, yet every note rang clear and true. The Steinway sang under her touch, like an instrument possessed, its voice soaring above the stunned silence of Manhattan's elite. Count Romano stood up involuntarily, his years of musical education recognizing mastery when he witnessed it. Other audience members followed suit, unable to remain seated in the presence of such artistry. Cecilia paused for exactly one heartbeat before the final section, a moment of perfect silence that stretched like eternity. In that pause, 250 people realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. Phones that had been recording for mockery now captured reverence. Then Cecilia's hands descended like controlled lightning. The final measures erupted with power that seemed to shake the crystal chandeliers. Bass notes thundered through the ballroom's foundation while melody lines soared toward the vaulted ceiling. Cecilia's technique was flawless. But more than that, it was transcendent. She wasn't just executing Mozart's vision. She was channeling 23 years of suppressed dreams, a lifetime of being invisible, generations of immigrants whose talents had been buried beneath survival. The final chord rang out like a declaration of war against every assumption the crowd had carried into this room. Cecilia held the sustain pedal down, letting the harmonies decay naturally, while the ballroom absorbed what had just occurred. Silence. Complete, absolute silence that stretched for 4.7 seconds, long enough for reality to reassemble itself around a new truth. Then the eruption began. The standing ovation began with Count Alessandro Romano, erupting into thunderous applause that shook crystal chandeliers. Robert Martinez, Juilliard's dean, pushed through the crowd. "Madam, where did you train?" "Milan Conservatory," Cecilia said quietly. 23 years ago." The ballroom exploded with recognition. Former musicians pulled up old performance videos. "That's Cecilia Giordano. She was legendary." Derek Chen's live stream hit 800,000 viewers. Cecilia Giordano trended worldwide. Business cards materialized everywhere. Lincoln Center, Metropolitan Opera, Deutsche Grammophon. An anonymous donor wired $500,000 for Isabella's loans and Maria's care. Jackson stood frozen as his world imploded. His campaign manager fled. Board members texted frantically. His Senate run was over. "Mr. Jackson," Cecilia said, retrieving her cleaning gloves from beside his ring, "I believe you have a wedding to plan." The crowd roared with appreciation, but Cecilia didn't want his money. She wanted only one thing: recognition that excellence exists everywhere, even in people society renders invisible. 6 months later, Carnegie Hall. Cecilia walked on stage in an elegant gown, her Milan Conservatory medal gleaming. Sophia, Isabella, and Father Marcus sat front row. Maria, lucid today, smiled from her wheelchair. The sold-out crowd included everyone from the Pinnacle Tower Gala, except Jack Jackson, whose empire had collapsed under investigation. Cecilia performed Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21, Full Circle, then premiered her original composition, 23 Years, a piece capturing sacrifice, invisibility, and resurrection. 10-minute standing ovation. But the real triumph came Thursday nights at St. Augustine's Church, where Cecilia now taught free piano lessons to working-class children. Tonight, she was teaching a young janitor from her old building. "Excellence doesn't retire," she told him, placing his hands on the keys. "It waits. And sometimes all it needs is one person cruel enough to issue a challenge, and one person brave enough to accept it." Outside, snow fell on Manhattan, covering everything equally. Penthouses and projects, Steinways and mop buckets, reminding the city that worth isn't determined by what you clean, but by what you carry in your soul.